Hey guys, tonight we drift far back to ancient Thebes, a few thousand years before alarm clocks, espresso, or the concept of just 5 more minutes. You're awake. Somehow, long before sunrise though. If you truly were here, you'd probably be groggy, confused, and in desperate need of caffeine that hasn't been invented yet. There's a good chance you wouldn't last long in the heat or the sand, but that's fine. You're safely tucked in our imagination. Cozy and no worse for time travel. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're feeling social in your sleepiness, comment your location and the local time, so we can see this little time-traveling bakery spreading across the world. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You open your eyes to the edge of a city wrapped in cool air and faint smoke. Thebes, great and drowsy, still half asleep under its linen of darkness. The Nile, just beyond the clustered brick houses, moves with a slow silver shimmer. You can smell it, the water, a trace of silt, and something fresh waiting to happen. It's that gentle in-between moment. Not quite night, not quite day. The stars haven't all gone home, though the first blush of pink light is peeking at the horizon like a nosy neighbor. The first sound is dull but rhythmic, the thump of a stone pestle turning grain into flour. You'd think a city this old would rest properly, but no. There's always someone working, always a breath of industry. A few feet away, behind low mud brick walls, a bakery stirs to life. Inside, clay domes glow faintly, small, round ovens called tanners. They look like pots turned upside down, and they radiate comfort, heat, and the faintest crackling song. You step closer, barefoot, the dirt cool beneath your soles. There's an earthy smell, grain dust, faint yeast, someone's burnt attempt from the night before. When one of the bakers lifts a lid off his oven, smoke curls upward like sleepy ink in water. At the back of the room, a torch guttering near exhaustion throws honey-colored light on the floor, where little wheat kernels scatter like stars fallen from a small sky. 8. Woman at the millstone yawns wide enough to fit a good-sized fig, then laughs when she sees you watching. She offers you a pinch of flour, gestures for you to rub it between your fingers. Coarse, grainy, slightly sweet hit, clings to your skin like ancient snow. You sneeze softly, and she grins as if she expected that. Ancient allergy humor, very niche. They work without much talk, though there's gentle humming, a tune that might once have been a hymn before being slowly sanded by centuries of repetition. Each movement is practiced and unhurried. Knead, shape, pat, dust, breathe, repeat. The youngest apprentice has fallen asleep against the wall, head resting on a sack of barley. Someone shoves him gently with a heel, not unkindly, and he mumbles, "I'm awake," even though he absolutely isn't. You pass one of the ovens, feel the wave of heat lick your shins. It's comforting, not fierce, a steady, kind fire. The loaves inside puff slowly, like living things taking deep breaths. This, you realize, is one of the oldest scents humanity has ever loved. Bread becoming itself. A deep voice breaks the hush. An older man who must be the master baker. His hands look like sculpted dough themselves, thick and cracked with flour lines. He's muttering about the day's order. How many offerings for the temple? How many for the soldiers? How many for the market? Bread, in Egypt, is currency, offering, and meal all in one. You can pay your taxes with it, feed the gods with it, or quietly trade it for beer when the supervisor's not looking. The master baker plucks a small loaf from near the oven's mouth and taps it with his fingernail. The hollow pop tells him it's done. You can almost hear history hum behind that casual gesture. Thousands of years later, people will still tap their bread the same way. You watch him set it aside, nodding in satisfaction. He doesn't know it yet, but tonight, or rather, this slow sunrise, he and his sleepy crew are about to stumble upon something that will change mornings forever. Asterisk, there's a small debate going on in the corner. It seems someone left a bowl of dough near the beer jars, and the smell has turned pleasantly odd, slightly sour, slightly bubbly, as if the dough has had a few too many. Historians still wonder whether Egypt accidentally discovered yeast as an extension of their beer making, or the other way around. What came first, the buzz or the bun? We'll never know, but the fact remains. Your nose twitches with that faint tang of transformation. It smells alive. Asterisk, a young woman picks up the misbehaving dough, sniffing curiously. It's puffier than usual, light as air. She mutters, something you can't quite hear, then gently presses a finger into it. The indent fills back slowly, like a deep, satisfied sigh. She smiles. This is new. She doesn't yet realize she's cradling the first hint of morning bread, but history notices, even if she doesn't. Asterisk, outside, the city is still in a hush, but the sky is changing colors quickly, now lavender folding into rose gold, then an amber sheen at the edges of rooftops. Chickens protest the hour. A few geese march self-importantly near the bakery door, like night guards clocking off duty. The air is turning warm. The oven's glow competes with the sunrise itself. Asterisk, a cool breeze carries whispers from the river boatmen muttering, oars slapping softly. You can smell the faint sweetness of date palms mixing with the earthy bread steam. That blend might be the earliest version of breakfast aroma humanity ever knew. It's quiet magic, understated, but impossible to ignore. Asterisk, the master baker shuffles past, muttering about grain ratios, while his assistant rests a head on a sack again. You're struck by the gentle absurdity. People have been tired at work forever. Nothing new under this particular sun. They're just baking their version of early shift fatigue into history. Asterisk, you glance at a half-opened clay jar of emmer wheat. It glints faintly under the torchlight, tiny specks of gold, asleep and waiting. Every seed, you realize, is both food and potential. The ancient Egyptians called bread life-sustaining, and in this hush before official daybreak, you feel that truth settle somewhere inside you like warmth after tea. Asterisk, the city will soon roar awake scribes. Soldiers, mothers with baskets, balanced lightly on their heads, but not yet. Right now, you're standing in the very heartbeat of the ritual that holds the chaos together. The silent making of bread, a rhythm older than almost any civilization you can name. Steady, reassuring, slightly dusty. Asterisk, somewhere behind you, a rooster yells in what can only be described as bad timing. The apprentice startles awake again. The baker chuckles. The woman at the millstone wipes her brow, and the first true ray of sunlight touches the bakery threshold. Asterisk, the day has begun, and it smells like flour becoming memory. The sun hasn't yet cleared the palm tops, but the ovens in the bakery outshine dawn's first blush. You can feel the soft tremor of their warmth under your toes, the heartbeat of the room. Every little crack in the mud brick walls acts like a vent, releasing sighs of steam and faintly sweet smoke. The air hums with purpose, though no one speaks above a murmur. You stand on the threshold, watching as the bakers tend their fires, each one moving with quiet grace, as if they were musicians performing a slow, ancient lullaby. Asterisk, the ovens are shaped like upturned jars round, with open mouths at their base. They glow a deep, meaningful orange, like sunset trapped in clay. Each oven may be small, but together they radiate the calm authority of tiny suns rising long before the real one does. You approach one cautiously, hold your hands near it, and feel that steady pulse of heat, strong enough to bake a loaf, gentle enough to soothe your skin. It's strangely hypnotic. Asterisk, a young assistant, bleary-eyed but cheerful, feeds the fire with small palm sticks. He fans it with a reed mat, and hums to himself in a rhythm older than the language he's humming in. You realize this is the same melody from earlier, passed from hand to hand, through generations, every note, dusty with practice. One of the senior women nudges you gently to move aside before she slides around. Pale disk of dough onto the oven wall using a long-handled paddle. The smell intensifies instantly, a blend of earth, smoke, and something golden you can't quite name. If coziness had a temperature, this would be it. Asterisk, a light joke passes between the bakers. Someone has forgotten their bread stamp again. Egyptians branded their loaves with family or temple marks, a sort of edible signature. You watch another woman carefully press a small clay seal into a fresh loaf before baking. The imprinted coiled serpent, possibly the goddess Renenutet, will mark the bread as belonging to the harvest shrine. The detail is beautiful and faintly ridiculous. You wonder if some accountant scribe will later count the loaves one by one. Muttering about missing serpents. Asterisk, you crouch to peer inside one of the ovens. Each loaf clings to the inner wall for a short eternity before lifting off with a soft sigh. The baker uses a curved tool to tease it free. The color transitions from ivory to soft amber, then into that glorious medium brown that makes you involuntarily hungry. The scent alone feels like a full meal for the soul. Asterisk, at the far side of the bakery. There's a clay basin filled with barley mash bubbling lazily. The Egyptians were fond of beer, thick, sweet, and sometimes so nutritious it counted as food. One of the apprentices accidentally spills a ladle of beer mash onto a batch of waiting dough. A scolding voice rises, a few laughs echo, and then everyone decides to keep the experiment quiet. You can tell they've done this sort of mistake before. Historians now suspect that beer and bread shared an experimental origin, a curious overlap where the froth of one became the lift of the other. It's plausible that more discoveries came from yawning than from planning. Asterisk, you follow the master baker as he adjusts the oven drafts, muttering calculations about heat and air. He dips a piece of reed into flour water and sketches a quick mark on the wall, a kind of temperature note, based on smoke, color, and how quickly flour browns on the test patch. There's no thermometer, no timer. Everything here runs on instinct. You notice small cracks in his hands filled with pale powder, almost like the fine lines on old statues. Every movement he makes is ritual and repetition merged into one. Asterisk, behind you. The sound of a small bell tinkling announces a visitor, a neighbor woman carrying a clay bowl, offering sweet dates in trade for 2 loaves. She chats softly about her children and the shape of clouds. Her laughter joins the oven sounds until the whole bakery hums with warmth. Literal and emotional. Asterisk, the heat rises thickly now. Your cheeks glow, your arms glisten slightly from the steam. There's a subtle rhythm. Push the dough to the wall, turn, blow on your hands, smile faintly, check again. The process feels eternal. Every loaf, a heartbeat in a chain, stretching farther back than memory. You realize it's still early enough for stars to faintly glitter beyond the smoke holes overhead. But the light outside is turning from indigo to pale honey. Morning is unfurling like silk. Asterisk, a cat sneaks inside, tail high in confident entitlement. It skirts dangerously close to the ovens, steals a crumb, and saunters away without remorse. The bakers half-heartedly pretend outrage, but the cat is clearly in charge. Animals, apparently, have always sensed where the best smells happen. You too. Stand a little straighter. Your stomach has been protesting ever since the first loaf started to rise. Asterisk, someone laughs again quietly, kindly, and flicks the remains of a burnt crust toward the corner. The cat claims it, without hesitation, without gratitude. The old baker catches your eye and grins. He checks our quality. The gesture seems to say, if he eats it, the gods will too. You almost reply aloud, then realize your voice doesn't belong here. You're a quiet observer, a ghost, slipping through a warm morning that keeps on breathing. Asterisk, in the center of the bakery lies the main mystery of the day. That bowl with its sourdough, gone fluffier by the minute. Fermentation has begun its subtle dance, though no one truly knows why. You can see tiny bubbles forming, delicate as glass. The young apprentice, finally alert, pokes the surface again and frowns thoughtfully. The smell is odd but pleasant, like sunrise, mixed with the notion of adventure. You suspect this is the moment history stirs, a combination of accident, stubborn curiosity, and an unspoken promise to taste whatever happens next. Asterisk. Historians still wonder which generation truly discovered the secret of leavening. Was it an overlong nap beside the oven, a misjudged batch of wet flour, or the lazy decision not to bake yesterday's dough in time? Maybe all of them. Discovery, here, isn't a thunderclap, but a gentle sighbret, quietly teaching humans to wait. Asterisk. The ovens hiss softly as another round finishes baking. The smell now is richer, toasted, almost chestnut-like. Outside, dawn glows pale gold across the rooftops, and you can sense the steady rhythm of the city beginning to stir the bleat of goats. Creaks of carts, faint chatter carried across the air, but inside the bakery, time still folds in on itself. The fire's breath and human breath overlap. Ancient chemistry meeting simple hunger. Asterisk. You rest against the wall, feeling the heat through the bricks at your back. For the first time, you're aware of how beautiful routine can be. Hundreds of mornings, all different only by the little stories told within them. No one here speaks of empires or eternity. Their conversation is flour, flame, and laughter. Yet, in this tiny room, humanity keeps its most enduring promise to make something warm and nourishing from dust and time. Asterisk. The old man nods toward you, gestures at the bread, and mimes taking a bite. Whether or not you physically can doesn't matter. You imagine it. The crust yields gently. There's steam, sweetness, and life. You exhale slowly, almost convinced you can taste sunlight itself. Asterisk. The ovens whisper again, and the room glows brighter than any temple could hope to match. The bakery hums now with a gentle urgency, still sleepy, but awake enough for trouble. You find yourself helping gather baskets of cooling loaves, the straw woven smooth by many mornings of use. A fine flour mist hangs in the air, softening everything like a dream filter. It settles on your hair, your hands, the lashes of the young apprentices, who are a little too tired to care. They're barely more than teenagers, though their forearms already show that sturdy, lifelong dusting of white powder that says asterisk. I work in heat and hope. Asterisk. The master baker lets them joke a bit now. A round-faced boy needs a lump of dough into a terrible shaped part fish, part pyramid, part confusion, and the others snicker. He pretends it's a gift for a local scribe, for writing very long words nobody asked for. One of the older girls swoops in, squashes the monstrosity flat, and says with a wink, "May the gods forgive our humor and our gluten." Asterisk. You laugh, before catching yourself. You barely exist here, and somehow still their laughter is contagious. The air tastes faintly metallic from the ovens, but also sweet from the grains. When one of them hands you a sieve, you help sift flour over new dough. It falls in silver streaks, clinging to the rim and dancing as sunlight breaks through a cracked wall. The beam moves gently across faces, catching the amusement in tired eyes. Asterisk. Beyond the wall, birds begin complaining about the morning. The Nile reeds whisper, brushing together like old paper. The sky is now a soft gold, and the glow seeps across the floor until it looks like the bakery itself is exhaling light. Asterisk. A row of apprentices races to see who can shape the neatest round. The dough glistens slightly, smooth as new skin. A boy with perpetually floury elbows wins every round, partly from speed, partly from contagious enthusiasm. He flourishes his finished loaf overhead and declares, "For the gods or for my stomach." There's that human combination of reverence and hunger again. intertwined since forever. Asterisk, the heat increases. Sweat and flour mingle into a kind of working perfume. You dab your face with your sleeve, feeling the fine grit against your skin. One apprentice notices your awkwardness and half grins, handing you a damp cloth dipped in Nile water. It smells faintly of reed sap and warmth. The gesture is kind, practical. Ancient hospitality, dust edition. Asterisk. You notice the rhythm of the tasks. Scoop, pour, knead, pat, swap. Each motion choreographed without planning, like waves folding into one another. Someone hums quietly again, a simple tune, 4 notes, repeated endlessly. It could pass for a lullaby or a prayer, maybe both. Asterisk, historians still debate whether Egyptian bakers were mostly men, women, slaves, temple workers, or independent craftsmen. Records show them everywhere: market stalls, royal kitchens, temple courtyards, but never agree on hierarchy. The truth, like flour in sunlight, scatters. Here, you see all sorts working together without much comment. Every hand matters, every movement counted in loaves rather than titles. Asterisk, at the back wall, a tall jar of fermented starter bubbles gently. The young baker's eye. It's suspiciously uncertain whether it's going bad or getting interesting. The smell has grown sharper overnight. Part fruit, part river wind, part something that might be history itself. The master sniffs, nods sagely, then says something that sounds approving but might just be we'll see. Today's theme appears to be culinary bravery disguised as apathy. Asterisk, you help carry the newly baked bread outside to cool on woven mats. The air is fresh and bright, the first sun reflecting off pottery rooftops. Across the narrow lane, a sleepy goat balances on a ledge, as if meditating on existence. Children drift by chasing a hoop made from bundled reeds. The whole city wakes and layers the bakers first. Then the smell of baking, drawing everyone else from their homes, like the world's kindest alarm clock. Asterisk, inside. One trainee whirls in panic. He's knocked a jar of honey water and curses softly, starting to clean up. You step back to avoid the spill as the sticky liquid crawls between the floor cracks. The older woman just shakes her head fondly and tosses him a rag. She mutters something about sweet feet bringing luck. No one knows what that means, but it sounds official enough to stick. Asterisk, in moments like this, the city feels young and endless at the same time. You can picture similar scenes happening centuries apart, with different faces, but the same sleepy determination. And you, half observer, half participant, blend into it perfectly. A thin layer of flour turns out to be excellent camouflage. Asterisk, you crouch beside the oven mouth again, mesmerized by the shifting patterns in the light. The edges shimmer as heat dances upward like invisible ribbons. It feels oddly alive, as though the ovens themselves breathe with the pace of the workers. When someone opens the hatch too fast, a deep hiss escapes, and everyone instinctively leans back. "It's angry again," says the round-faced boy, and the others laugh nervously. Maybe the fire does have moods after all. It's seen more mornings than any of them. Asterisk, the temperature climbs. The smell sharpens. The combination of yeast and sugar explodes into something delicate but pervasive. If scents were music, this would be a harp chord, played gently but insistently below the city's chatter. Asterisk, your stomach growls, embarrassingly. The nearest apprentice snickers and cuts you a tiny sample from a cooling loaf. You hold it, steaming, between your fingers. The crumb is tender, a bit heavier than modern bread, with a tangy perfume from that mysterious starter. You take a small bite, and your taste buds light up like celebratory torches. Sweet, earthy, slightly nutty of flavor that hums quietly of beginnings. Breakfast, still unnamed, is sneaking into existence. Asterisk, one of the young bakers wipes his hands and squints at the dough bowl again. "It's too alive," he mutters. "Maybe the gods breathed in it." The older man grins. "Then let's not disappoint them." He tosses the suspiciously frothy dough onto another slab for baking. Everyone watches as it rises quickly, bubbles pushing outward. It feels spontaneous, rebellious, a loaf with personality. Asterisk through the open door, sunlight completes its entry. The whole lane floods with gold. Dust motes sparkle like lazy comets. A donkey brays somewhere, off-key accompaniment to the morning choir. You stretch, feeling the warmth, loosen every muscle, and realize you've been smiling for some time without noticing. Asterisk, the master's voice calls out a low, satisfied rumble. He's counting loaves, nodding with each finished batch. He turns to you, well, through you, since you're barely solid here, and says to no one in particular, every morning the same, and yet never the same. It's the unofficial motto of all human routine. Asterisk, the apprentices chuckle, unaware they've just witnessed their own prophecy. The day bread became unpredictable. The morning meal began. The bakery hums like a little planet now. Grin, chatter, laughter. Heat hand through the blur of motion. You notice a small clay jug wobbling at the edge of a counter. An apprentice's elbow nudges it, and the jug tips in slow motion. The sound that follows is a soft plop. The unmistakable music of beer spilling where it absolutely should not. Asterisk, asterisk, the master baker freezes mid. The young culprit stares wide-eyed at the bubbling puddle of half-fermented barley syrup mixing into the dough trough. Everyone inhales sharply together, as if air alone might reverse the accident. Then comes the moment that will rewrite breakfast. The master shrugs, mutters something like, "Waste not, faint not," and stirs the mixture anyway. Asterisk, asterisk, you can almost taste the hesitation in the air. The apprentices glance from one another to the bowl, half expecting divine lightning, or at least an ominous thunderclap from Renanutet, goddess of grain inventory. Nothing strikes, only a faint hiss from the oven vents, which could just as easily be the fire giggling. Asterisk, asterisk, the dough, now shot through with beer and wild yeast, begins its quiet rebellion. Tiny bubbles form at the surface, slow but determined. One bubble becomes 2, then 10, each one bursting with a shy whisper. You smell it before you fully see it. A tangy sweetness, like honey asking politely to meet smoke. The sour note of yeast floats upward, sharp and promising. Asterisk, asterisk, the master scoops a dollop onto a baking stone, his eyebrows declaring, "For science." Or, in this case, for breakfast. The others back away slightly, peeking from behind jars and baskets. The dough spreads, then lifts, rising faster than anyone thought clay heat could manage. You watch it puff like a pillow, remembering it was once a cloud. Someone gasps. Someone else sneezes. The sneezing apprentice, by all accounts, contributes nothing but comic relief. Asterisk, asterisk, historians still wonder if this was truly how Levant bread was discovered. The beer bread intersection, a happy tangle of human convenience and microbe mischief. No one recorded the exact recipe, but, given our evidence of ancient brewing and dough experiments, the story fits perfectly like yeast in a warm bowl. The more you think about it, the more the world feels shaped by brave mistakes. Asterisk, asterisk, the aroma deepens. The master pokes at the loaf with a wooden tool. The crust begins to color unevenly, patches of amber and gold, a painter discovering new hues by accident. The apprentices lean forward, eyes bright, faces half shaded by the oven glow. Their shadows stretch along the walls like curious spectators. You feel yourself grinning again, caught between reverence and hunger. Asterisk, asterisk, then, the first taste. The baker tears off a piece, blows on it, flicks his wrist to cool it faster, and finally takes a bite. Silence falls us, silence so complete that even the ovens seem to pause in anticipation. His expression shifts from suspicion to intrigue to something dangerously close to delight. He chews slowly, squints, then motions for another bite, this time larger. Soft, he says, full inside, like a morning after the rain. Asterisk, asterisk around him. Laughter bubbles louder than the dough did. Everyone dives for bits of the strange new bread. You get a sheer tour portion, arrives warm and slightly sticky at the edges. It tastes richer, airier, alive. The flavor lingers longer than any flatbread's right to do so. It fills your mouth with warmth, and your imagination with possibilities. Asterisk, asterisk, a breeze slides in through the bakery window slit, carrying faint hints of the river. It cools the sweat on your neck and swirls the flour motes into glitter. You exhale slowly. Maybe this is why humans love mornings. Maybe we've been chasing this exact feeling ever since. Asterisk, asterisk, in a far corner. One apprentice eyes the leftover beer mash and asks shyly, "Should I throw it away?" The master shakes his head, half smiling. "Keep it. Might be useful for breakfast." He says the word, as though trying it for size, weighing its rhythm. Breakfast. You can almost hear the universe adjust itself slightly to make room for it. Naturally, his apprentices repeat it with theatrical confusion, turning it into a tiny in-joke that no one outside this room will understand for millennia. Asterisk, asterisk, not everyone is convinced. The young woman who handles the seals frowns, sniffing the loaf again. It smells peculiar, like beer pretending to be bread. The master nods, still chewing. Maybe that's the trick. Bread pretending to be beer, pretending to be bread again. She laughs, and the rest join in, the sound rolling warmly under the oven's steady hiss. Asterisk, asterisk, you move closer to watch another batch form dough. Beer, rest, fire. The motion has changed now, less repetition, more curiosity. A new sort of energy hums through the air, the thrill of discovery uncoiling between spoon strokes. The apprentices handled the dough more gently, careful not to anger or frighten whatever invisible creature makes it rise. They whisper about tiny spirits sleeping inside the flour. The master just says, "Patience makes them wake." Asterisk, asterisk, he decides to test the mixture's boundaries. Into one portion, he stirs honey. Into another, crushed dates. Into a third, he sprinkles sesame. Each re-enters the heat with a quick nod, a murmured prayer, and a collective hope that the gods enjoy variety. The smell multiplies accordingly: caramel sweetness, nutty warmth, toasted dreams. Your stomach grumbles again, this time louder. The bakers hear it and take it as approval. You've apparently become the voice of culinary progress. Asterisk, asterisk, the oven crackles, releasing a note like laughter. For a heartbeat you imagine it, truly speaking, telling you that the world has just tilted slightly toward joy. The scent thickens, wrapping itself around your senses. It's impossible to separate smell from emotion now. Everything is calm and glowing except for the hilarious fact that the apprentice still guarding the beer jar refuses to move an inch. Terrified to spill again, he hasn't realized he's now guarding double history. Asterisk, asterisk, outside. Early market sounds begin sneaking through the door. The clop of donkeys, the polite chaos of morning trade. The bakers glance toward the light. Time wants them, but they're not ready. They lean against the counters, sipping from water skins, quietly marveling at what they've made. No one needs to say it aloud. Something genuine has happened here. A discovery that feels like an inside joke between humans and yeast. Asterisk, asterisk, the master pats the young apprentice on his floury shoulder. If the pharaoh asks, tell him we meant to do it. The boy laughs until his breath turns into coughing from all the flour in the air. You pat his back, the universal sign of sympathy for choking geniuses. He recovers, smiling sheepishly. The next tray emerges darker, richer, proudly imperfect. The loaves breathe steam that smells faintly intoxicating, because it literally is. The bakers stare at their creation, the way inventors often do, half pride, half disbelief. Outside, dawn has fully arrived. Even the sky seems to blush at how well this accidental marriage turned out. Asterisk, asterisk, And just like that, beer has met bread, and the world of mornings will never be the same. The bakery smells like triumph and toast. You lean against the warm clay wall as the bakers rearrange their proofing bowls, faces glowing from pride and steam. Just outside, a thin green shimmer edges the horizon, signaling the Nile's distant sparkle. The city has properly awakened, now voices gathering, animals announcing themselves, pots clinking in adjacent courtyards. Still, there's a thick, contented slowness in the air, as if the discovery has tugged time into a small nap. Asterisk amid the bustle, the master baker kneels before a clay jar beside the farthest oven. From it, he lifts a handful of grain, lets it pour between his fingers like gold dust. The motion is reverent, not flashy, not for show, just gratitude done by habit. He mutters a few words, directed toward Renanutet, the serpent goddess who guards the harvest. May she wrap her coils around our crops, not our necks, murmurs one apprentice with a grin. Ancient humor, 90% fear, 10% charm. Asterisk a carved wooden figure of the goddess sits near the bench, half glossy from years of handling, half chipped from being accidentally knocked over one too many mornings. Its painted eyes gaze protectively or inquisitively at the bakers. Beside it rest clay seals stamped with her likeness, elegant curls of tail and grain stalks intertwined. Egyptians decorated their loaves for devotion and bookkeeping alike. You pick one up carefully, noticing crumbs still clinging in its grooves. Worship and accounting, two activities that have always been oddly compatible. Asterisk the master motions for you to help. You're light enough to pass as a spirit assistant. Apparently, he presses the seal into the fresh dough slowly, deliberately. The impression is beautiful. The goddess curved into the shape of supplication, or maybe satisfaction, as if saying, asterisk, yes, yes, you've finally figured out breakfast. Asterisk flour dust lingers in the carved lines like mist over a riverbank. When he lifts the stamp away, the image gleams faintly under the ambient light. Asterisk every loaf wears its blessing, the old man says to himself, even if the blessing is a little sticky. One of the apprentices snickers, especially if it's sticky. You can sense affection woven into the sarcasm. That's the unrecorded history, the warmth between lines that papyri never catch. Asterisk. He gestures toward an altar built into the corner, a low shelf stacked with miniature offerings grains, small breads, dried figs. The aroma mingles curiously with the stronger smell of baked yeast, sweet fruit, and ash. You might expect AEW, but what you mostly feel is tenderness, the way people thank whatever force keeps their mornings operational. The offerings glisten slightly, from a thin dribble of beer poured across them, a liquid prayer. If the gods are listening, they're probably smiling and maybe licking their divine lips. Asterisk outside. Light brightens to full gold. A woman passes by carrying lotus blooms in a woven tray, nodding at the bakers as though aware they've done something worth nodding at. The young apprentices play along, bowing dramatically as though receiving royal honors. A wayward loaf tumbles off a tray in their theatrics and lands upside down, rescuable, fortunately, but now suspiciously similar to the shape of a coiled serpent. A small omen, perhaps? The master traces a spiral in the air and declares that even the goddess enjoys a joke. Asterisk historians still wonder how literal. Egyptians were about their gods whether they expected daily interventions or treated divinity more as cheerful bureaucracy. Judging by this workshop, faith feels like friendship. Renanut said statue looks ready to laugh at their entire operation. Asterisk you take another slow breath. Inside this heat, every inhale feels like drinking bread itself. The walls flicker with small reflections where sunlight bounces off metal bowls. Steam curtains rise and vanish again in an endless rhythm. For all the talk of gods, this is really about balance. Enough heat to rise, enough cool to breathe. The perfect ratio of faith and flour. Asterisk. The master explains something to a sleepy apprentice, who apparently asked what prayers actually do. They remind us the fire might burn kindly today, he says. And if it doesn't, at least we said thank you before knowing. That line feels older than any written hymn. Asterisk from somewhere down the lane. A drummer starts a slow morning beat, 3 thumps, and a pause announcing the start of the market day. The rhythm threads through the bakery doorway, until every knead and sweep seems to sync with it. Even you find your breathing adjusting. Exhale. Exhale. The goddess statue gleams softly, as if tapping her spectral tail to the rhythm. Asterisk. It's time to present the morning's God-approved loaves. The new beer-kissed bread cools on reed mats like little suns setting in reverse. Steam lifts in diagonal beams toward the windows. The master sprinkles the top with a final dusting of crushed coriander seed, a practice meant to freshen the soul. The scent releases warm citrus, sharp green cutting through the sweeter tones of yeast and honey in a small act of olfactory harmony. Asterisk. You help line the loaves neatly on trays. Each bears the serpent seal, each slightly different, some puffier, some a little too adventurous in rise. A few have split open along the top where the airy souls within refuse to stay contained. Perfection isn't the point. Abundance is. You recall modern breakfasts, with their endless rituals, coffee temperatures, toasters, jam ratios, and realize none of them feel this patient. Humanity traded time for convenience, but flavor still remembers its origins. Asterisk. A teenage apprentice named Nebet gets too close, while admiring her reflection in a pot of glaze, smearing a flour handprint across half her face. The others tease her. Our goddess has chosen a new vessel. She rolls her eyes, leaving the mark on as a badge of honor. You suspect this won't be the last cult of the breakfast goddess to appear on Earth. Asterisk. Before loading the offering trays onto a small cart, the master breaks a piece from the largest loaf and sets it on the altar under Renenutet's watchful gaze. He whispers a line that you catch clearly. For the mouths we feed, and the mouths we will never meet. The apprentices repeat it softly, a round of prayer disguised as poetry. Asterisk. You watch the flicker of oven light graze his face. The lines around his eyes seem carved by countless mornings. When he turns back toward the group, the gravity is gone and humor returns. And for the cat, he adds. Immediately, the cat appears, as if summoned to claim its sacrificial crumb. It purrs, tail swishing with smug approval. Everyone laughs again. It feels right to end the ritual that way. Sincerity followed by laughter. Holiness followed by a snack. Asterisk. Through the doorway, someone shouts that the market boats have docked. The bakers snap into action, sliding baskets toward the street. Yet, amid the scramble, the air stays light, playful, grateful. You glance once more at the goddess figure, faintly dusted in flour. Her coiled shape catches the light, and for a fleeting second, it really does look like she's smiling. Asterisk. Maybe she is. Maybe divine approval always smells faintly of fresh bread. The bakery's warmth trails you as you step into the street, where morning has stretched fully awake. Thebes now hums like a hive with the lid off, soft buzzing of voices, the shuffle of sandals, donkeys arguing over directions. The air is thicker, full of cooking smoke, date syrup, and river wind. Your newly bred perfumed clothes make you instantly popular with the neighborhood dogs, which treat you as an ambulant buffet with legs. Asterisk. Here, in the open light, you see how the baker's early labor ripples outward. The city's pulse accelerates, stalls sprouting in crooked lines, pots of lentils simmering, baskets overflowing with pomegranates and onions. Each vendor pushes space into existence with a shout or laugh. There's music to a flute somewhere, playing something that sounds both ancient and vaguely mischievous. Asterisk. You follow the baker's cart as it rattles toward the marketplace. The wooden wheels squeak, Grains of flour drift behind like breadcrumbs marking your path. The lead apprentice balances the tray of freshly sealed loaves with theatrical caution. Every now and then he shouts warnings at imaginary hazards, duck, goose child, none of which exist. You suspect he's inventing local fame for himself. The avenue widens, then splits into an open courtyard by the riverbank. Boats hug the shore, their sails furled like sleeping birds' wings. Between them, piles of lotus, papyrus, and clay jars glint under sunlight. Across this dazzling clutter, merchants barter for fish, herbs, linen, and gossip. Your nose is assaulted in the friendliest way by an orchestra of scents: roasted chickpeas, fermented fish paste, honeyed dates, and faint above them all, the sweet, toasty breath of your baker's new creation. Heads turn. Even the boatmen pause mid not to inhale deeply. Somewhere a fishmonger mutters, "By the gods, it smells like a happy dream." You think, well, yes, it does. The master chooses a spot beneath a tattered awning of woven reed mats. He arranges loaves on a cloth-covered plank. The retenue tet seal catches the light, like a signature of approval. For once the apprentices are almost soft. Then one trips over the cart handle, and solemnity surrenders entirely. An earthquake clearly jokes another. Laughter resets the rhythm of the day. Customers gather. A fisherman still dripping river water. A woman carrying a child swaddled against her hip. 3 children holding handfuls of copper scraps and barter tokens. Each receives a sample piece. The first bites draw immediate reaction. A mix of surprise and joy, soft enough to quiet the usual market din. The older fisherman mumbles, "Too airy," like it trapped the morning wind. That becomes their unofficial slogan for the day. You taste again, too warm, tangy, faintly sweet. The texture has evolved since the oven, chewier now, with pockets of steam collapsed into softness. It's astonishing how quickly comfort can solidify into history. You glance at the apprentices exchanging stunned looks. They've realized their experiment has become currency, conversation, community. Historians later find temple inscriptions describing such morning breads, though they debate whether those were the same yeast-kissed loaves you're encountering. Maybe several bakers across Egypt stumbled on similar miracles simultaneously. Maybe the Nile itself whispered recipes. The master kneels to adjust his display. Behind him, the river gleams like poured bronze. Across the water, another neighborhood begins to stir. Smoke curls from distant bakeries, echoing your own discovery. You smile at the idea of parallel accidents happening under the same sky. History rarely makes appointments. It simply wanders until something wonderful happens. A small priest in linen passes, staff tapping rhythmically against the stones. He pauses, inspecting the loaves with professional suspicion. "New shape," he says. The master bows lightly, claims it's a sunrise loaf, meant to honor Ra's daily commute across the sky. The priest's eyebrows rise. "Clever," he replies, taking a sample for what he calls divine consultation. Everyone knows that's code for breakfast. Bureaucracy never changes. The apprentices giggle behind his back. You almost feel guilty for them when he turns sharply, but he only says, "Make more." Order confirmed from heaven's local representative. The boys beam. You wander further into the market's maze. Textiles hang in strips overhead, indigo, saffron, sand-white casting shifting stripes of color as the breeze toys with them. Somewhere, a woman haggles over alabaster cups with a tone suggesting she's winning handily. Someone else plays a lyre, tentative strings, song half-formed. You catch rhythms overlapping, like heartbeats learning to dance together. A vendor selling honeyed figs offers. You won for a piece of the Nalphamus bread. You trade happily and bite into both together. The sweetness and earthiness meld until your mind drifts in narrative poetry unfit for early hours. The apprentice who followed you chews his own sample and declares seriously, "This would make mornings tolerable." And there it is, the first recorded food review in human history. 5 stars. Moderate chewiness. Transcendent spirit. Asterisk. You move closer to the water's edge. The Nile slips past steadily, carrying reflections of sailcloth and sky. Fishermen untangle nets while arguing about yesterday's catch size, always upward. Along the bank, the incoming tide of commerce continues, clay pots thudding open to reveal dried herbs. Sandalwood crushed lapis for makeup. Everything about it feels timelessly human. Chatter, bragging, the mingling of sweat and scent. Asterisk boatmen drift near, curious about this smell invading the morning air. The master tears a loaf in half, tosses pieces toward them. They catch mid-sail as if trained for centuries. You hear shouts of approval, followed by an agreement shouted across the river. Tomorrow. Trade you fish for your magic bread. The apprentices are giddy. The master smiles modestly, but hides an unmistakable sparkle of triumph. Asterisk still, there's a fragile humility to the moment. No one writes the recipe down. They trust repetition more than parchment. You watch one apprentice trace invisible notes in sand with her toe, as if to remember proportions through body memory rather than ink. She hums again that 4-note lullaby that has followed you since before dawn. It threads through the air, above the hubbub, light as yeast bubbles bursting in slow time. Asterisk the sun climbs higher. Shadows draw crisp across the ground. The color of the loaves deepens under direct light. People start calling these golden rounds, a name that spreads faster than the smell itself. The master sits back, exhales, and mutters. Maybe the goddess was hungry too. Asterisk for a moment, the marketplace quiets, in your perception a slow fade of detail as you focus on breath sounds. Your own. There's the faint lap of the river. In that unity of noises, there's satisfaction. The discovery has left the bakery, joined life. Found purpose. Asterisk, and as the boats depart, their sails catching both breeze and aroma. You have this strange certainty that somewhere, someday, someone else will wake before dawn just to chase the scent of fresh bread and never know they owe that hunger to this sleepy, bright morning along the Nile. The warmth of the market still clings to you as you wander farther along the riverbank. A breeze off the Nile ruffles the edges of your linen tunic and brings with it the unmistakable perfume of baking that refuses to fade. You keep catching that new, sweet, tangy scent wafting through the air. Apparently everyone else does too. Thebes hums with a gentle confusion. People looking around as though the sky itself has changed flavor. Asterisk you drift past linen stalls, herb grinders, papyrus merchants and, everywhere, chatter about the bubbly bread. Mothers, dignitaries, fishermen, even the priest from earlier have turned into self-appointed critics. One declares it, the taste of dawn. Another insists she feels lighter inside, though that might be due to enthusiasm rather than digestion. Somewhere a child tries to trade his sandals for one loaf, and ends up offering his father's sandals too. Asterisk you laugh under your breath. No one notices. They're all too busy marveling at how this mysterious bread makes morning smell kinder, brighter, almost generous. Across the way, a street vendor ladles goat milk into bowls, mumbling about how he'll need something sweet to accompany it. Aha, you can sense it forming, the creature called breakfast, stretching in the cradle of humanity, yawning its first delightful yawn. Asterisk meanwhile, back near the bakery's awning, the apprentices pretend they invented joy. Their eyes shine as cues form. The master hides a grin behind his practical scolding. Don't spill the offerings, he says, but the corners of his mouth betray laughter. The sun climbs higher, coating everything in laid-back glitter. Asterisk eventually, you catch sight of a worn-looking man carrying baskets of herbs. He pauses mid-stride, sniffing. That smell, he mutters, smells happy. He buys a loaf, breaks it, stuffs a piece into his mouth, and shouts down the lane, "Come taste this sunrise." And just like that, the phrase spreads faster than yeast itself. Asterisk. The community responds, as only humanity can, with curiosity sharpened by appetite. Within hours, neighbors try to copy the recipe, except none have the strange beer-flour combination quite right. Some batches puff like pillows, others sit sulking and flat. The air fills with the hopeful chaos of experimentation, laughter, mild swearing, a few burnt crusts. From rooftops, pigeons watch, like impartial judges of culinary evolution. Asterisk. You stroll along these trial kitchens, passing small courtyards where families reinvent bread in real time. Every door reveals a new version, some round, some folded, one ambitious innovation shaped like a fish. Its baker declaring, "For luck." The smell travels everywhere, through alleys, courtyards, stairwells carved into the hillside. You realize that scent alone has become a messenger of this quiet revolution. Asterisk. Historians still debate whether Egypt actually possessed a single morning origin story or multiple first bites scattered along the Nile. But watching this unfolding theater, you're convinced real inventions never happen once, they bloom everywhere at once, like wild lotus stirred by a breeze that refuses to stay put. Asterisk. You pause at a small garden beside an herb woman's stall. She's sprinkling chopped coriander and date syrup over her trial loaf, panicking because the edges are turning a suspicious shade of black. She prays out loud to every god she can remember, then yanks it from the fire pit just before flames kiss it. You take one cautious nibble, how polite of you, and nod approvingly. It's charmed chaos but delicious. She almost cries with relief. "Tell everyone dates are the secret," she proclaims, and there it goes. Another rumor launched. Thebes burns with enthusiasm, but unfortunately, sometimes literally. Asterisk. Down by the quay, men spreading nets stop working to taste offerings from children delivering baskets. The entire riverbank smells like a cross between heaven and toast. Fishermen passing by share portions with boat crews, who immediately decide the bread pairs excellently with dried fish. You, meanwhile, stand watching exchanges multiply like laughter itself. The invention has gone public. Asterisk. Nearby, an old scribe balances his writing board on his knees, furiously sketching glyphs for the event. When asked what he's doing, he smiles, documenting the miracle. Posterity needs breakfast too. His papyrus catches flecks of flour as he writes, probably causing future archaeologists endless joy and speculation. Asterisk. The bakers finally arrive with another round. The apprentices disperse samples like festival gifts, accepting gossip as payment. A woman clutching onions swears to trade her best batch tomorrow. A spice seller offers cinnamon bark that somehow washed in from trade routes beyond the desert. The masters exchange slices, uniting separate corners of the market in universal chewing rhythm, the pure diplomacy of bread. Asterisk. Food anthropologists, centuries later, will say, half wistful, that this is how civilization speeds itself, shared calories fostering shared calm. But standing here inside the glow, you just feel how everyone slows down around these loaves. They chew thoughtfully, laugh softly, even breathe differently. The clamor of Thebes still beats, of course, but somewhere beneath it pulses the soft exhale of thousands of contented mouths. Asterisk. You find yourself perched on a shaded step, eating another piece, unconcerned with crumbs decorating your tunic. The cat from earlier has followed you, naturally. It presses against your ankle, purring approval, its whiskers speckled with the same flour that dusts your fingers. You break off a bit for it because resistance is futile, and it licks the crumb, as if tasting history's best mistake. Asterisk. Above, sunlight thickens, and boats start to drift out for the day. Traders load linen, honey, salt. A few carry wrapped loaves of the new bread to deliver across the river. You catch one merchant whispering plans, baked the same way in Abydos, in Memphis, maybe even farther north. The aroma of possibility stretches invisibly with the wind. Asterisk, the master finds you. His brow glistened and his smile unhidden now. It spread quickly, he says. You nod. He chuckles softly. Be careful. Next thing you know, we'll have to wake even earlier. You share a laugh. Progress, you recall, always finds new ways to ruin sleep schedules. Asterisk, his apprentices gather around, triumphant and exhausted. They've sold nearly everything. As they pack up, he gives each one a piece of bread and a splash of beer. To the accident that wasn't, he toasts. Foam catches the sunlight. Laughter spills higher than their cups. You silently join, raising an imaginary glass, because, well, you're only half here but fully invested. Asterisk, as you turn toward the river's shimmer, a feeling settles deep inside. This morning is no longer a moment, but a pattern repeating endlessly forward. You can almost see the loop bakers rising before dawn in every era. Kitchens glowing in every culture, each chasing that same comfort. And somewhere, perhaps across thousands of tomorrows, people will still wake up, sniff the air, and smile before they even know why. Asterisk, the invention of hunger and happiness, rolled into one crust. The midday sun makes the Nile look like sheets of melted gold, and you can almost hear it fizz. The river glints up into your eyes until everything boats, baskets, and sight seems gilded. You shade your face and notice something curious. A procession winding down from the granite steps of the palace enclosure. Soldiers in white kilts, trumpeter children, officials clutching scrolls. The unmistakable fragrance of high-level curiosity wafts with them. Someone very important, apparently, has heard about the bread. Asterisk, the bakers exchange glances, equal parts panic and pride. The master smooths his beard, wipes his hands, and mutters the kind of simple prayer people use when they realize their invention might suddenly be judged by someone who can have them. Reassigned to pyramid maintenance. Relax, murmurs an apprentice. Maybe she's just hungry. That's optimism, pure and slightly sweaty. Asterisk, sure enough. At the procession's center, you glimpse a palanquin decked with palm fronds and bright cloth. Out peers a young noblewoman, perhaps a royal taster, perhaps just someone who appreciates carbohydrates at a molecular level. Whatever her title, she commands the attention of the entire market by simply yawning elegantly. The crowd opens in a wave until she reaches the bakery cart. Asterisk. The apprentice offers a deep bow so extravagant that his head nearly collides with the tray. The noble takes one delicate piece, holds it near her nose, and inhales with the theatrical gravity of a sommelier. What is this scent? She asks, eyes narrowing from mystery rather than malice. It is like beer, but it behaves. The line sends ripples of laughter through the crowd, careful laughter. The kind that says asterisk, we adore your wit, please spare us. Asterisk, the master explains truthfully enough. Beer dough, met dough beer, and this was born. Then, perhaps realizing he's over, he adds hastily, for the glory of the gods. Naturally, the noble arches one sculpted eyebrow, but looks amused rather than offended. You claim the gods' drink, and then feed us with the same cup. A tidy arrangement, he replies. The laughter this time is genuine. Asterisk, she tastes. The moment stretches everyone, including the donkeys, seems to hold breath. Her eyes widen ever so slightly, and the corner of her mouth curves upward. Soft, she says, full like morning. The phrase echoes. Someone in back mutters, we've heard that before, but nobody minds. The taster signals approval with a small nod, then does something unexpected. She motions for a basket filled with the loaves to be carried to the palace. Kitchen, asterisk, an assistant whispers to the master, you'd better remember what you did. His reply, impossible. Perhaps the goddess took notes. History will sympathize. Seizing inspiration is easy. Repeating it while sweating under royal supervision is slightly trickier. Asterisk. Rumor travels faster than any official announcement. Within an hour, half the market believes the pharaoh himself has demanded this bread for breakfast. The other half claims it has become a cure for melancholy. And at least one overzealous storyteller declares the dough talks to birds. None of the reports hurt sales. You watch this swirl of exaggerations with amused affection. Human imagination baking its own myths while the loaves are still warm. The palace request, however, is real. Soon you're walking with the bakers across courtyards drenched in sunlight, following the guards' polished spears that gleam like tuning forks of intimidation. The baker's cart bumps over cobblestones, each jolt releasing another puff of fragrance. Servants pause in their sweeping. Priests pivot mid-chant. Soldiers sniff suspiciously. Faint smiles breaking military formation. Wherever the bread passes, contentment follows like a domesticated ghost. Asterisk inside the palace kitchen vast, shadow cooled, echoing with clatter. You realize just how many people are devoted to keeping royalty fed. Knife sharpeners, spice sifters, fan bearers, gently manufacturing breeze. The bakers look tiny in this mountain of noise and ritual. Yet, when the cart is unveiled, conversation stills. The smell cuts through space like sunlight through shutters. Asterisk, a chief cook approaches, towering arms folded. He squints. We already have bread. Not like this, the master says quietly. That confident little hum surprises even him. The cook breaks a loaf, steam unfurling like incense from a secret urn. He tastes. His posture softens. Huh? He grumbles, which in the hierarchy of kitchens equals divine praise. Leave it by the throne room. The pharaoh must smell this before judgment. Asterisk, you trail behind as servants carry trays through corridors painted with scenes of feasts and offering tables. The air whispers of frankincense and candle smoke, but the new scent multi-sweet, alive overpowers the perfumes of ceremony. When the guards slide open the great doors, a hush ripples outward. There is no pharaoh yet, only empty space and cool grandeur. Asterisk, someone sets the tray upon a low marble table, beside fruits and carved jugs. Sunbeams filter through the lattice windows, turning each loaf to gold. You imagine how absurdly small and human these simple rounds must look amid imported oils and precious stones, and yet they shine more convincingly than either. Asterisk, one apprentice whispers, "Do we bow to it, or run?" His friend whispers back, "Both. Once we know if he smiles." You suppress a laugh. In this sea of formality, humor is the last defense against being monumentalized. Asterisk, historians still wonder about royal tastes. In ancient Egypt, did pharaohs truly appreciate the inventions of commoners, or merely appropriate them? The records remain silent on this particular pastry incline. Yet seeing the tension on these bakers' faces, you sense hope trumping fear. It's the universal instinct to share a warm loaf, and pray that power recognizes simple comfort when it appears. Asterisk, the chief cook dismisses them kindly with a flick of his hand. Go. If he likes it, you'll know by sunrise. That's either promise or threat, depending on the breakfast result. Asterisk, outside again. The baker inhales deeply, as though exhaling an entire dynasty's anxiety. The apprentices collapse into nervous giggles. One sighs. If the pharaoh frowns, at least we'll have eaten like gods tonight. The master pats his shoulder, saying, "Exactly." And if he smiles, mornings will never be quiet again. You suspect he's right on both counts. Asterisk, as they head back toward the river, you fall into step beside them. The sun has dipped to late afternoon amber, turning everything, the ovens, smoke, the temple walls, even the startled birds, into slow-moving gold. Somewhere behind you, inside those marble walls, the sweet, toasty fragrance of revolution still lingers. Asterisk, and along the Nile, rumors are already drifting faster than the current. That the pharaoh breakfasted on common bread and found divinity hiding in a bubble of yeast. By the time you and the bakers return to the riverfront, the sun has softened to copper, and the heat no longer bites its size. The city glows like an ember being gently blown upon. The narrow alleys exhaling steam and gossip. You can feel the buzz of speculation pulsing through every conversation. Asterisk, did the pharaoh try it yet? Did he live? Is he smiling? No one knows. Which of course means everyone knows. Asterisk, the master pretends calmness incarnate, sorting baskets with studied indifference, but his apprentices are vibrating like kites in a storm. What if he orders more? What if he bans mornings forever? What if he sends actual scribes? Genuine dread swims beneath the humor. You half expect someone to suggest hiding. Asterisk, instead, the master wipes his hands and says, only thing to do now, bake something stranger. This is how humanity handles stress, by escalating its hobbies. Asterisk, the apprentices brighten instantly as he points to the leftover bowls of dough, now swelling like overconfident frogs. Into the largest pot, they drop a handful of honey, maybe to sweeten the error, maybe out of sheer superstition. A younger boy, proud owner of the world's worst balance, carries the bowl toward the ovens and somehow spectacularly trips. The bowl arcs through space, dough and honey describing a brief, majestic ballet before splashing into the oil vat used for frying onion cakes. Asterisk, they freeze. You freeze? Even the cat pauses mid-lick to stare accusingly. The smell is immediate, sweet, nutty, golden, and then the first noisy pop from the bubbling oil. Dough spheres rise to the surface, gleaming like miniature suns after rain. Someone gasps, another coughs. The boy mutters several apologies that could double as prayers. The master peers, in curious rather than furious. Well, he says, if the gods wanted to punish us, they'd choose a less delicious method. Asterisk, he scoops out a puffed piece with a split reed ladle, shakes off oil, bites. His eyebrows climb halfway to divinity. Crisp, outside, soft heart, he declares. The others crowd around the vat, every speck of fear burnt clean by curiosity. Within minutes, they have an entire batch, draining on reeds, glistening amber under the firelight. You taste one. It crackles delightfully. The honey turned to fragile glass. Asterisk, the cat steals one before you can stop it. It yowls quietly, probably in appreciation, then disappears into the alley with history stuck to its whiskers. Everyone bursts out laughing, tension leaking away in gusts. The city outside may tremble with rumor, but inside this courtyard, life is back to its cozy scale. Mistake, panic, laughter, snack. The 4 stages of invention. Asterisk, historians still can't say exactly which culture created fried dough first. Sailors around the Mediterranean claimed it. Romans later took credit, but right now Egypt's case is looking strong. The whole discovery feels absurdly fitting. Breakfast invents, dessert before midnight even arrives. Asterisk, the apprentice who caused it all stares into the oil vat with guilty wonder. Accident? The master asks. Innovation, the boy says quickly. Ah, replies the master. Very large difference, though it smells the same. Asterisk, word of the new creation escapes faster than the first. A perfume merchant's apprentice runs to fetch her mistress. Fishermen abandon nets mid-repair to taste. Even a pair of priests dashes in under the pretext of investigation. Within an hour, the courtyard is a festival. Spoons clatter, laughter echoes, oil hisses, and the melody of bubbling dough fills the dusk like an orchestra of tiny heartbeats. Asterisk, nearby, 2 elderly women watch the frenzy, shaking their heads. Children of fire and flour, one says. They'll fry the Nile next. Then she bites into a fritter and murmurs, worth it. Asterisk, a cool breeze meanders through, carrying a faint scent of lotus and satisfaction. The sun slips lower, painting the walls burnt orange. The master leans against a bench, face relaxed now, pride glowing where anxiety used to be. He speaks softly, mostly to himself. We began with bread for the gods, and the gods answered with dessert. Asterisk the apprentices. Cheer half seriously. The youngest raises his fritter to the sky and declares, to Renanut May, her coil, never uncoil, then eats it in one bite. The others follow suit. A small sweetness ceremony in lieu of a grand temple. Asterisk, you sit back, letting warmth seep through your shoulders. Smoke curls upward lazily, turning violet at the edges as twilight deepens. Behind that fading light, the city quiets. Sellers close stalls, voices lower. Children chase the last rays down alleys, whispering of tomorrow's breakfast. Asterisk then. From the direction of the palace, the sudden rhythm of drums, a messenger signal. Everyone stops mid-chew. The drumming draws closer, measured, official. The apprentices straighten, their fritters turning suddenly into evidence. The master sighs, wipes his hands again. If we're to be executed, he says dryly, at least they'll smell good doing it. Nervous laughter, always a fine seasoning for terror. Asterisk the drummer arrives, a palace runner glistening with sweat, eyes wide from importance. He unfurls a small papyrus and reads in a grand voice, as though announcing war treaties. Asterisk by decree of the pharaoh. The morning offering known as the bubbling bread has been received with favor most fragrant. The palace requires 10 trays by first light. Add honey. Asterisk a collective shout erupts that barely stops short of mass hugging. The apprentices scatter in every direction, some for flour, others for beer, one inexplicably to feed the cat. The master just shakes his head and laughs until tears cut clean tracks through the flour on his face. Asterisk, you glance toward the horizon, purple now, glittering with the first stars. The baker catches you watching the river, and says quietly, seems we've invented work. Asterisk, you smile. Enjoy, you think, though maybe he hears it anyway. Under the closing sky, ovens kindle again, fires blooming brighter than any constellation. Tomorrow waits like dough rising unseen, ready to spill over the edge of habit once more. Night slides down Thebes in shimmering veils of indigo, and the bakery is once again the hottest ticket in town. The ovens roar, new sparks drift up through their vents, ascending like miniature fireflies going off to gossip with the stars. You stand beside the master, sleeves rolled, listening to the low, rhythmic whoosh of air as bellows feed the flames. The noise outside has gentled into late evening low, no shouting vendors now, just laughter echoing across courtyards, soft as ripples. Asterisk the apprentices work with renewed, jittery glee. Every motion is amplified by palace pressure reach, step heavy with responsibility but light with pride. The youngest one sings quietly, while kneading, making up lyrics about golden bubbles for golden gods. The others join in, clapping on off beats. The tune is irresistibly bad and gloriously honest. You chuckle. Humanity's first workplace song is officially both catchy and off-key. Asterisk. The new batches of dough are alive, literally humming underneath your palms as you shape them. The mixture of beer, yeast, and honey makes it greedily effervescent. The surface gleams faintly in lamplight, reflecting faces crowded nearby. The bakers now debate sweetness levels, like philosophers. To honeyed, and it is dessert. Not enough, and the pharaoh might frown. You learn that diplomacy starts in the kitchen. Asterisk a soft plop interrupts your thoughts. One apprentice experimenting again, this time flicking bits of dough into open air above the oil to see which morph into perfect spheres. Some land gracefully, some perform dramatic dives. A few explode. The cat, stationed strategically near the fry pot, treats each disaster as a benevolent act of the universe. No one stops him. He's head of quality control by now. Asterisk the smell deepens into something reverent. Caramel, toast, smoke, a whisper of nuts. Candles tremble from the oven draft, their flame tips bending toward the scent like eager witnesses. You can feel history thickening again, attaching itself invisibly to motion and aroma. Out in the street, neighbors hover near the doorway like moths pretending disinterest. The master invites them in, tired of pretense. If you help carry trays, you can steal the crumbs. Asterisk they eagerly accept, and the bakery fills tighter. Your little circle of heat becomes a small festival. Laughter flowing between whistles of escaping steam. Bare feet pattering over stone, sweets crackling in oil. Someone starts humming that earlier market tune. Another keeps time by slapping a wooden bin. It's almost midnight, yet you swear the evening grows brighter, the glow fed by joy rather than flame. Asterisk watching them. You catch yourself reflecting how quickly human routine swings from survival to celebration. Bread was necessity this morning. Now it's entertainment, social glue, something bordering on art. Even your skin tastes faintly of flour on the era, delicate seasoning for memory itself. Asterisk the master assigns tasks like a general of calm chaos. You more, honey. You wipe the counter before the dough declares independence. You stop feeding the cat. He snorts softly when no one listens. Then to you, check the oven mouths. If they breathe evenly, the gods are pleased. You kneel, peer into the heart of the fire. Each mouth glows a different hue. Orange for patience, red for mischief, yellow for opportunity. At least, that's how your weary brain translates chemistry right now. The heat hits your face like applause. Asterisk historians still wonder about the role of communal bakeries in Egyptian cities, whether they were purely economical or also social centers. Watching this scene, there's no question. Here, flour becomes conversation, heat becomes binding agreement, and laughter the currency everyone wants. Asterisk one of the neighbor women starts recounting earlier rumors. Apparently a palace official spoke the words, divine nourishment aloud, and lived to repeat them. Maybe by tomorrow, they'll canonize breakfast, she jokes. Everyone cheers that possibility in easy religion with daily communion and no complicated hymns. Asterisk you take a break near the doorway, stepping into blessedly cooler air. The city's roofs blend into one dark silhouette. Bells from a temple ring in the distance, slow, hollow, not quite in tune, but comforting. The Nile glimmers pale silver under the crescent moon. You realize you've been awake through an entire cycle of invention, from utter darkness to this deep night, pulsating with light and laughter. The world feels softened around its edges. Asterisk back inside. The final trays come out, loaves shimmering with honey glaze, fritters piled high, steam curling off in lazy promises. The apprentices hover, proud and awestruck. They're glowing, one whispers, as if loaves could decide to imitate celestial bodies. They earned it, the master says. He turns to you, not exactly seeing you, yet somehow addressing your existence, and adds, every discovery deserves a little shine. Asterisk they load straw baskets carefully, layering the still warm goods with fig leaves. Enough for 10 trays, counts the master, plus 1 for mortal taste. That spare loaf becomes their shared victory feast. They tear pieces in silence first, then start giggling again when honey runs down their wrists. You join, of course, though mostly in spirit warmth, threading through your chest like cooling sugar threads over pastry. Asterisk someone leans back against the wall and sighs. Tomorrow, we're famous. The day after, exhausted. The master replies, that is the order of life. Exhaustion, fame, more flour. He grins faintly. At least it smells good. Asterisk, and indeed, everything smells irresistible. The scent has crept into courtyards and tangled up in the jasmine vines above. Any soul passing now would dream of sweetness, whether they tasted it or not. Asterisk the last embers dim, releasing a thin smoke ribbon that drifts up through the vent. You trace it, rising into the dark sky until it blends invisibly with stars, imagining the gods following it like breadcrumbs back to this tiny, laughing room. Somewhere out there, beyond night. A royal taster probably wipes honey from his chin and wonders if breakfast could become habit. Asterisk in here. You close your eyes for just a moment, listening to the faint crackle of cooling bread, a sound halfway between whisper and small applause. The master stretches, mutters, "Tomorrow's sun will judge gently, I think." You hope so. Asterisk for now. The city breathes in harmony with its newest ritual, rising, baking, sharing, and in the hush that follows, you feel your own heartbeat settle into its rhythm, as simple, ancient percussion echoing the oven's dying pulse. Thebes sleeps under a blanket of gold dust and yeast, utterly unaware it has just cooked itself into tomorrow. When dawn shows up again, reluctant, yawning, and already late, the air is sweet with lingering honey. You can smell it from the river, where barges creak and sway in the mist. The sky blooms in thin lavender streaks that slowly melt into gold, and across that new light, the first traders appear, a floating parade of baskets, jars, and human optimism. Asterisk, you stand on the same bank as yesterday, though everything now feels quietly altered. Boats nose past each other, crews calling lazy hellos. Children chase each ripple as if trying to grab sunlight. And on nearly every vessel, wedged among spices, or stone blocks, or fish traps, rest a few of the new loaves, wrapped in woven leaves. It's happening already. Trade rumor. Taste sailing away, to tell everyone that mornings are no longer bland. Asterisk, the master baker staggers from a side path, hair newly powdered with experience and flour. He greets you with a grin, resembling victory disguised as fatigue. "The palace trays made it," he says simply. Then, lowering his voice, the pharaoh asked for seconds. The words carry the reverence of scripture. Asterisk, news travels fast in markets, but faster by water. You watch two sailors on opposite decks cut into a loaf and nod solemnly before grinning wide, enough to start the next generation of gossip. Within hours, breakfast will belong to everywhere the river touches. Thebes, Memphis, the Delta. Even small fishermen's shacks tucked into Reedsall will wake to something warm and deliberate. Asterisk, back at the bakery. The atmosphere feels lighter, if no less exhausted. The apprentices move at half speed, but twice the pride. One is repairing a warped oven door, like a sculptor nursing his masterpiece. Another dozes upright on a stool, still humming last night's horrible, wonderful song. The cat has claimed an entire cooling mat as its new fiefdom. You don't argue. Some heroes wear whiskers. Asterisk, you join the master near the mixing bench. In front of him sits a mysterious bowl covered with linen. "Spirit bowl," he says dramatically, "our living starter." This one nearly escaped. He peels back the cloth to reveal bubbling dough, rising and sighing as though breathing. It wants another chance to travel. You can't decide if that's poetry or a genuine safety hazard. Asterisk, he laughs softly. "We'll send portions with the traders. Let others tend it, feed it, rename it. By next flood season, maybe Nubia will see golden mornings too." He pauses, gazing through the door toward the wide sunlight. "Bread will remember us longer than any carving can." You sense he's right. The Nile may shift, dynasties fade, but yeast is an immortal archivist. Asterisk, nearby, a Nubian merchant strolls in, curiosity trailing behind him like incense. His tunic is stitched in patterns from the southern kingdoms, each motif a map of memory. He samples a piece, chews slowly, nods. "This tastes awake," he says in accented Egyptian. He exchanges a small sack of aromatic seeds, fenugreek, maybe for a dozen loaves. Another thread is stitched through history right there. Asterisk, soon. Traders from Punt wander by carrying baskets of myrrh and shell beads. They too crave a sample. One woman examines it thoughtfully and pronounces, "like smelling rain." Within minutes, her crew is debating how to bake it with coconut husk fire back home. And there it is. World conquest via carbohydrate. The master shakes his head in amused disbelief. The gods work in mysterious starches, he mutters. Asterisk historians later uncovered traces of an Egyptian-style loaf as far downstream as modern Sudan, but no one can fully trace its path. Watching these merchants set sail, you realize maps will never hold the journey of tasted rides, invisible winds of craving and comfort. Asterisk. The apprentices sit on the stoop, legs stretched, eating fried dough for breakfast. The irony lost on none of them. One muses aloud, "What will they call us?" Another replies, "Mouthful, late for a nap." They all laugh, then lapse into that satisfied silence of workers who've outperformed destiny for the week. Asterisk A. Few locals arrive bearing gifts: clay, jugs of milk, handfuls of dates. Everyone seems to be participating in a communal thank you without ever calling it that. A midwife passes, blessing the ovens with a sweep of her hand for making mornings kinder. A scribe offers to draft a festival decree. The master politely declines. Let it spread by hunger, not proclamation. Asterisk. You walk the lane lined with waking homes, the smell of bread dusting the air like soft music. From an upstairs window, voices argue about whether warm bread should have oil or honey. Civilization, neatly summarized. You grin at the domesticity of it all: comfort, descending from what was once mere accident. Asterisk A. Lazy breeze flutters the flour sacks stacked near the doorway. Sunlight gets trapped among the motes, turning the space almost holy. The master watches, half smiling. Seems Renanutsit's still visiting, he says. Any good serpent knows how to bask in warmth. Asterisk. You feel the day stretching ahead, full and slow. The boats clatter softly against their moorings, a lullaby for industrious dreamers. Somewhere in the distance, a temple bell rings, neat and patient, acknowledging a routine newly born. Asterisk. Historians still wonder whether ancient Egyptians truly ate breakfast as a separate meal or simply munched leftover bread with beer. Staring at this newfound custom, you suspect the answer is, it began with too much curiosity and a few sleepy bakers who couldn't leave dough alone. Asterisk. The apprentices break another loaf open, steam swirling in morning light. Listen, one says, you can hear it sigh when you tear it. The sound is indeed that of quiet satisfaction. You take a piece, still warm, chew slowly, and realize the world's first morning meal tastes not of conquest or ceremony, but of calm, invention, chosen kindness between busy hours. Asterisk. Outside, children chase each other around bread baskets, leaving trails of flour footprints that could easily be mistaken for small constellations. A merchant yells about prices. Somewhere nearby, someone sneezes dramatically into a cloud of yeast dust. The cat meows approval, and life continues exactly the same, only softer. Asterisk. As the last trading boat drifts downstream carrying jars, dates, gossip, and dough, you'll realize a simple truth. The invention of breakfast was also the invention of pause, the brief luxury of enjoying the beginning before the rush begins. Asterisk. The breeze off the Nile agrees, lifting faint crumbs of flour into gold sparkles that float upward until the sunlight swallows them whole.